I don't know much about the Bible myself. I haven't read it because I don't have to, because I'm Catholic. Oh, he's going to hell. Not a lot of Catholics have read the Bible. It's a different perspective on rules for Catholics. It's not like other religions. You know, Hindus are not supposed to eat meat. They don't eat meat. Catholics like, only eat fish on Fridays. Unless you forget. Do what the hell you want. We'll see you at Easter. My wife's really Catholic. She's like a Shiite Catholic. She's always worried about Diablo. So I joke around with her. I'll call her up. So who is this? And I'll just go, the devil. She brings me to church every Sunday. If you've never been to a Catholic Mass, that is the longest experience of your life. It makes you look forward to going to the DMV. Times it seems like they're dragging church out on purpose. Oh, I'm in already. Let's wrap it up. I got some sinning to do. There's too much standing involved in church. Can't I lie down and worship? Oh, I mean the hot pocket. God pocket. I mostly daydream in church. I always have that introspective look on my face like, On the inside, I'm like, did I go to Wendy's twice yesterday? Not a good Catholic. I don't even feel comfortable when someone's praying next to me in church. I'm like, can you do that outside? I'm trying to check out some of the ladies in here. I do have the dirtiest thoughts in church. I was like, peace be with you and an extra piece for you. Because you deserve it. My wife always wants me to go to confession. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't enjoy lying to a holy man. I just don't know how honest people are being in there. They go in there for like a minute and a half. Yeah, I lied. I double parked. Can we wrap this up? I'm meeting a hooker. Yeah, grazie padre. Seems like so much of church is memorization. I have a horrible memory. I'm always like, our Father who art in heaven without the approved written consent of Major League Baseball. I think religion's fascinating. You know, Adam and Eve kicked out of paradise for eating an apple. An apple? Would you ever been tempted by an apple? I've been like, Kerber and Caramel, come back to me. Hey, you got a cake back there? I love cake. I know religion jokes make some people uncomfortable, and I call them sinners. My wife is very Catholic. If you've never been to a Catholic Mass, it's still going on. Never really ends. They just loop it around. I can never get my wife to leave when church is over. She's always like, why don't we stay and talk to the weirdest people here? She doesn't consider me a real Catholic because I don't go to church or follow any of the church teachings, but you know, occasionally I'll root for Notre Dame. So I'm Catholic. I think it's interesting how Catholics and Protestants didn't get along. How did that play out? Yeah. You see those people over there with the almost identical beliefs as mine? I want to kill them. Because my God's all about love. Big families are like waterbed stores. They used to be everywhere and now they're just weird. Some people think it's religious. Like, yeah, well, those kids for religious reasons. That's not how it works. If anything, you have 4 or 5 kids and then you become religious. Because once you lose a kid at the mall, you know, atheist or not, you start talking to God right away. Hey, God, I know I haven't talked in a while probably since finals in high school. Anyway, if you can help me find my son, I promise I'll change my life. I'll stop going to Wendy's. Oh, there he is. Never mind, God. Well, we're off to Wendy's. Do. Talk to you when I get cancer. Do. Because that's how it works, right? We really only reach out when we have a crisis. That's got to be annoying for God. He's got to be like, well. Someone gets the big C and they turn into Billy Graham all of a sudden. I seem to remember when you were in college, I didn't exist. But now you're cherry cutty. A joke that combines cancer and religion. Always a crowd pleaser. But we all aspire to be forgiving. Pope John Paul II forgave the guy who tried to assassinate him. I mean, granted, he was the Pope. He couldn't be like, let's torture this babe. He kind of had to forgive him. But Pope John Paul II went to the guy's jail cell and forgave him. But then he left. It's not like then he had lived with the guy. Like if the Pope lived with the guy, we would have seen how long that forgiveness would have lasted. Pope, your turn to do the dishes. Didn't you shoot me? I think it's always your turn to do the dishes. Bless you, my son. Pope, that's a tough job. Anyone Pope here? No. Pope's a tough job. You know it's tough because the last one quit. It's like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Remember when the Vatican was like, you're supposed to speak for God until you die. And the Pope was like, God told me to quit. And to eat more cheese. Our new Pope, Pope Francis, calls people on the phone. I don't know why you'd ever believe it's the Pope. Hello, it's the Pope. Oh, can you hold on? I have Spider-Man on the other line. I'm no saint, but nobody even goes for saint today, right? There's no saints. Nobody's like, you know what? I'm thinking of, I'm either going to go graphic design or saint. Nobody goes for it because, well, there are Latter-day Saints. There's Mormons. I love the Mormons. I don't know what Latter-day means. Maybe that means they're like deviant till 3 p.m. I'm like, well, kids are coming home. Let's get out of these S&M outfits, honey. Back in khakis. I'm talking about the traditional Catholic sense of a saint. Nobody goes for saint anymore because it's too hard. To be considered a Catholic saint, you have to perform 2 miracles. I don't know why it's 2. It's not like half of us would be like, you know, if it was 1, I'd go for it. Yeah, because I could do that thing with my elbow. It's not like 1 miracle's not impressive. You're never in a job interview unless you hear special skills, walk on water, Microsoft Word. Tell me about the Microsoft Word. Actually, where I live in New York City is where the soon-to-be first African-American saint is buried. His name was Pierre Toussaint, and he was a hairdresser. I don't even know you could be a hairdresser and a saint, but he apparently got done cutting people's hair, and they were like, this is a miracle. And he was a great man, and he'll be a saint. He'll probably be the patron saint of hairdressers. You know, because saints, they're in charge of things. Like, you're in charge of hairdressers. You're in charge of lost object. St. Patrick, you're in charge of Ireland. St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland. Every March 17th, we honor St. Patrick by getting wasted. Right? But we don't know. We don't know. St. Patrick could be up in heaven going, I didn't even drink. What are these people doing? I like their color blue. I made that very clear. Can someone remind God I'm from Italy? We don't want to rock the boat here, but these Irish are degenerates. Because they don't get to choose what they're the patron saint of, right? Like Saint Bonaventure, patron saint of bowel issues. I'm not making that up. Bowel issues. Talk about a promotion you don't want. Bonaventure's in heaven. St. Peter comes and goes, Bonaventure, you're a saint. Bonaventure's like, yes, yes. Am I the patron saint of scholars? Not scholars. Well, what am I the patron saint of? Bowel issues. Bowel issues? Yeah, you know when someone's getting a colonoscopy or say they're sitting on the toilet with IBS or explosive diarrhea. They're praying to God. Well, we don't want them praying directly to God. So you would be like a conduit. That way, God's not talking to someone who's doing number 2. Okay. First, I'm talking about Catholic saints because I'm Catholic. I'm not a good Catholic. Like, if there was a test for Catholics, I would fail. But then again, most Catholics would fail, which is probably why there's not a test. But since I'm Catholic and I'm a comedian, I was asked to open for the Pope when he visited America. And before you're impressed, it didn't go well. Like, I opened for the Pope, but the Pope wasn't sitting there like, ha, 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 ha. I don't know how the Pope laughs. Hopefully not like Jabba the Hutt. But I did 15 minutes of stand-up, and then the Pope Mobile drove into this outdoor amphitheater space. I opened for an automobile. And that's not even the first time I've opened for a car. I had to cut my honeymoon short so that I could perform at the Iowa State Fair, where I opened for Kyle Busch's NASCAR. Kyle Busch wasn't there, just his car. I did 15 minutes of stand-up, and then some stagehands pushed his number 18 on the stage, and audience members came up and got pictures with the car. The car did better. But I did open for the Pope Mobile in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And if you've been there, you know they mean that sarcastically. I love Philly, but saying Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love is a little bit like saying Syria, a place for peace. But I love Philly. I love the whole Northeast. I'm from the Midwest, but I choose to live in the Northeast because I love the energy and I love the fact that everyone in the Northeast is angry for absolutely no reason at all. Furious. From Philadelphia to Boston, pissed off. Right? That whole Acela line, I call it the corridor of hate. But that is why we are the United States. Think of those initial 13 colonies. Like in Virginia, those guys, like Jefferson and Madison, those guys were like the philosophers. They're like, we're born with these inalienable rights. We should have representation. But it was the people in the Northeast in Boston that were like, screw it, dump all the tea in the harbor. Those English are dicks. They don't say that before a hospital. Don't you wish you were there when the Bostonians explained to the Virginians, yeah, we listened to all that stuff you said, so we started a war with England. The greatest superpower on the planet. The Virginians were like, what? You were talking hypothetically. Even Patrick Henry was like, when I said give me liberty or give me death, I didn't mean actual death. I was talking like death by chocolate death. But so I was in Philadelphia for the event at the sound check, and they had constructed this huge amphitheater next to the Ben Franklin Parkway, which is a highway, and the amphitheater was empty. And I was up there doing the sound check, and I looked on the highway, and it was already filled with 1 million people. And I looked at those people, and I thought, wow, 1 million people that don't want to see me do stand-up comedy. Because they were all there to see the Pope. And now one of those 1 million people was thinking, I hope the Pope has a comedian open for him. But I shouldn't have been surprised. In the weeks leading up to the event, there were all these interviews. They're like, you're opening for the Pope. There's going to be millions of people there. Are you nervous? Are you going to prepare? And I'm like, I'm definitely nervous. I'm definitely going to prepare. Anyway, I didn't prepare. So I was on stage at the sound check looking at those 1 million people, and I thought, I got to come up with some Philadelphia jokes. But what do I know about Philadelphia? I know cheesesteaks, Liberty Bell, and I just watched this ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about Eagles fans in 1968 throwing snowballs at someone dressed like Santa Claus. That's all I knew. So I went off and I tried to think of some Philadelphia jokes. Before you knew it, the event started and I was introduced and I walked out and the amphitheater was still empty. Because the Pope wasn't there and it was a Catholic event, so everyone was at the bar. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just going to do my show for no one. So I go, it's good to be here in Philadelphia. And I heard this roar behind me. And it was all the people on the highway. And I was like, all right, I'll play to them. I was like, Philadelphia loves the Pope. And I was like, not that I was worried, but you guys weren't that nice to Santa. Nothing. Silence. And then I heard something that sounded like booing, because it was booing. It wasn't everyone. It was like 10%, so 100,000 people. Booing my Santa joke before they saw their religious leader who was going to talk to them about mercy. So I did what anyone would do when they're being booed. I acted like I wasn't being booed. I did some jokes about being lazy and food, and I kind of got the crowd back. And I got off stage, disaster averted, and I pulled out my phone and I started checking Twitter and I saw the most angry, hateful tweets I've ever seen. How dare you bring up the Santa incident? Never come back to Philly. I wish I could punch you.
bring up the Santa incident in Philly is like bring up the Holocaust in Germany. That was an actual tweet. Of course, the difference being that the Holocaust happened and Santa has never existed. At that moment, there was a tap on my shoulder, and it was one of the organizers, and they're like, do you want to meet the Pope? And I was like, I'm good. I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to meet the Pope. So I was put in this room with some of the other performers, and we were lined up, and the Pope came in, and he started greeting people, and I noticed people that the Pope was meeting, they were saying something to the Pope, and I didn't know what I was going to say to the Pope. And before you knew it, the Pope was right in front of me, and I just said, don't bring up the Santa incident. And the Pope, he didn't say anything. He just gave me a look of like, dude, I would never do that. This is Philadelphia. They'd crucify me. Of course, a Catholic country here, in Valencia, I saw the Holy Grail. Well, maybe, right? It's possibly the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper, but probably not. And there are supposedly there's two other cups that are possibly cups that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper, but probably not. In fact, I have a cup at home that Jesus possibly drank from, but probably not. It's a sippy cup, so it was probably baby Jesus. This guy's a jerk. He's just rude.
Pope, that's a weird job, huh? Anyone Pope here? Pope never goes out. Wouldn't it have been weird to go to high school with the Pope? Somebody did. Somebody sit at home watching TV in Poland. They see the Pope. They think, that guy was a jerk. He was so mean to me, and now he's Pope? I got a swirly from the Pope. I think it'd be great if you had a kid that ended up being Pope. That would be the ultimate bragging rights. Oh, your son's a doctor? Yeah, ours is Pope. That's okay for him. Oh, they have a house? He has his own city. It's in Europe. Do you think when the Pope was a little kid, he fantasized about eventually becoming Pope? Like we might about being a professional athlete? Was he 8 years old in his backyard going, there he is, the leader of all the Catholics? I was raised Catholic. My dad used to always volunteer me for the reading in church. I'd be 6 years old. He'd be like, you'll be doing the reading. I'd be like, Christ. Never have my glasses, so I wouldn't be able to read. I'd be like, a letter from Peter to the postage post. Somebody kill me. I'd rather go to hell than read up here. Church, you're reading from the Bible. It's not you can make something up. You can get the first line and then ad lib. Letter from Peter to the apostles. Dear apostles, how was your weekend? Sure is hot here. Tell Jesus, hey. This is the word of the Lord. From a very big family, very large family, 9 parents. Anyone else? I'm actually one of 6 kids, Catholic. You ever notice people from big Catholic families, they always throw that Catholic after the number? 6 kids, Catholic. 6 kids, Catholic. If you didn't hear the Catholic part, you think, 6 kids, his mother really liked sex. Oh, she was Catholic. I'm the youngest, too. And when you're the youngest of a big family, people are always like, you're the baby, you're spoiled. The fact about it, when you're the youngest of a big family, by the time you're a teenager, your parents are insane. They're like, hey, I'm going roller skating. You're not going roller skating. You'll end up pregnant like your sister. Why don't you smoke pot and become a lawyer? Parents get burned out in big families. You can even see it in the naming of children. It's always the first kid, you were named after grandma. The 7th kid, you were named after a sandwich I had. I love that. Now get your brother Reuben.